Good evening, I'm Harry Keeling, and on behalf of Alaska Public Media and the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation, welcome to Hangar Flying. Our guest this evening is Clint Johnson. He's the Alaska Regional Director for the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB. Clint's been in Alaska since 1966, and I think you could almost say that he grew up on the hangar floor. He was involved with his family flying business, flew helicopters for 13 years with his dad. Joined the NTSB in 1997, and I think it's fair to say anybody that knows Clint knows of his dedication to aviation safety and the many contributions he's made that make aviation safer for us pilots in Alaska. Welcome, Clint.
Great to be back, thanks.
So let's talk about one of the really serious problems in aviation, but specifically in general aviation. I know it's a subject that you're concerned about, and that's loss of control.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Can you define what loss of control is?
Well, I guess to put it in layman's terms and to be very blunt, stalling the airplane. When the airplane is no longer in controlled flight is probably the best way to sum it up. Again, to the layperson, it would be a stalling the airplane.
So when would you, I can think of a couple of situations where we intentionally stall airplanes, don't we? When we go out and train on how to recover from stalls, we stall the airplane and recover, but the dangerous part is when it's unexpected and unanticipated. Talk a little bit about some of those situations.
There are certain flight regimes that are that risk is greater. Obviously, during takeoff, landing, low altitude maneuvering. Up here, unfortunately we call it the moose stall in Alaska. Orbiting over a very tight area, and normally if there's some game or something on the ground, as that turn tightens, obviously the stall speed quadruples or goes up considerably. So a lot of times we'll see maneuvering stalls. Another one that unfortunately has been a real killer here in Alaska, and probably a little bit more common than we've seen in years past, is departure stalls. Whereas lose an engine on takeoff in a single engine airplane, trying to make that impossible turn back to the runway, and unfortunately that in many times leads to tragedy.
Or other situations might be, for example, an unexpected go-around where you either because of the trim or you're just not paying attention that you lose control as you add power and don't push the nose over?
Absolutely. There are a number of different flight regimes where a stall or a loss of control can take place. There's a number of them. Again, this year we've seen a number of accidents during that departure where you lose an engine, take off, or for whatever the case is, again, trying to make that tight turn back to the runway, and unfortunately it leads to disaster.
Another situation I can think of is in the base to final turn.
Absolutely.
Getting too close to the runway, too tight, and you bend it around, and you unfortunately in that, as well as some of the circumstances you mentioned, you don't have the altitude to recover even if you tried.
That's key, is having that altitude. As you mentioned before at the beginning of the segment, stalls are practice. That's one of the primary things that we learn when we're flying, is to go up to altitude and practice those stalls. If there's ample room to recover from the stall, not going to be a problem. But if you're low to the ground, slow, you're just not going to have that room to be able to recover.
Talk a little bit about why loss of control accidents are so dangerous. I mean, what generally happens in those accidents?
Unfortunately, loss of control accidents like this usually result in either serious injuries or unfortunately death. Usually it's a very violent impact, and probably more cases than not, death to the occupants in the airplane is going to take place.
And I think I saw a figure that 40% or 42% of general aviation fatalities are linked to loss of control.
That is correct. That's why the NTSB is so concerned about loss of control, and in years past it's been on our most wanted list, and it's definitely something the NTSB is concerned about in general aviation.
What I'd like to do, Clint, is I think we're just about running out of time. Any final thoughts on loss of control?
You know, it's something the NTSB has been concerned about for a long, long time. And being an investigator and a pilot here in Alaska, unfortunately, a lot of our investigators here in the Alaska region, the NTSB, have unfortunately had the opportunity to investigate accidents involving loss of control and unfortunately fatality. So we'd like to keep that from happening and educate the general aviation public as much as possible.
Well, along that same line, I'd like to end the program tonight and just point out to our viewers that there is a seminar on Saturday, November 5th, and the topic is going to be loss of control, and it's going to be at UAA Aviation Technology. I hope you all can make it. Clint, as always, thank you for what you do day to day, and thanks for being on the program tonight.
Thanks so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. Until next time, fly safe.